Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's beef time!
Time for that rap beef.
Oh no, not rap beef, no! The queen of rap, Miss Nicki Minaj. If you have been on any corner of the music internet, you have most likely noticed she has been going into full meltdown mode, which is quite sad. It's a state you hate to see a queen in, and yet it is exactly what we are witnessing since the release of this new Megan Thee Stallion single, Hiss. And if you've been paying attention to Miss Thee Stallion, you know that she is in the middle of ramping up for a new album cycle. She came through with our first taste of this forthcoming record, Cobra, not too long ago. A song that I don't think drew her that much attention or even sympathy, sadly, despite the fact that the track was really going into some dark places mentally and emotionally from her. Something that I personally thought made the track, and I really respected, because that's not often a side we get from Megan. But from dealing with lies and ridicule to full-blown suicidal depression, this track was really processing the very turbulent past couple of years for Megan. It was a heavy track. Maybe unfortunately, though, it didn't kind of take on numbers-wise, because I don't know if this is the kind of messaging or vibe or energy a lot of Megan's, the hot girls expect from her. So fast forward weeks and weeks later, we're getting another single. Now, Hiss over here. This track actually deals in a lot of the same themes. All the stresses, all the pressure of the past couple of years that Megan has been dealing with, but the tone of this track is very much different. She's not so much in her head, she is instead breaking out, firing shots, retaliating big time. And from what I and anybody else can tell, there is no sole focus on any one single person or group of people throughout the entire track. It's kind of like, just a big explosive shotgun blast responding to, a lot of different detractors and haters and people who have been throwing shade her way. One of those people, which has been absolutely no secret whatsoever, is Nicki Minaj, who, despite collaborating with Megan and at one time being very close with her, recently has grown very distant, has been quietly writing her off, and this distaste seems to have evolved into resentment, and now at this point, seething anger. Over the past year, Nicki has been throwing some very not-so-subtle shots at Meg. From a 2023 Rolling Loud performance where she said something along the lines of some girls think they're hot girls, but they're actually hot messes, to a very obvious bar off of a Pink Friday 2 single, Red Ruby to Sleaze, where Nicki says that she, hasn't fucked with horses since Christopher Reeves, and, leaves this huge gap of space after the line, like, I'm implying it's a pregnant pause. I really want you to think about who this bar is about, okay? So sad, so desperate. And whether she's aware of it or not, Nicki has slowly been boxing Megan into a corner, pushing her to a point where she would have to respond in kind, in some way. And that's exactly what Megan did. She devoted a bar to Nicki, a very, these hoes don't be mad at Megan, these hoes mad at Megan's law. Meaning, the law that people who are convicted sex offenders comply with a national sex offender registry, which would apply to at least a few people who have been in Nicki's orbit. Her brother, also 6ix9ine, who she willingly recorded with, despite his very sketchy past. She really kind of jumped on the 6ix9ine train and was the biggest artist to do so, and also her husband. And I mean, it's a brutal bar, but it's also a brutal truth. Because here's the thing, like, Nicki's been throwing out some pretty mean shots, despite the fact that the house she lives in is very much made of glass. Not only that, but it's not as if she's, super secretive about her emotions on this topic, especially when it comes to her husband, who she routinely defends and says, that's something that happened when he was a child. Come on now. But even when young, that's still kind of a crazy thing to do, especially considering a knife was involved. For the sake of keeping this video monetized, this is not something I need to go into extreme detail with because the facts are out there. It is court documented. It is in black and white in numerous articles. And honestly, Nicki and the Barbs don't even deny it. They just make excuses for it. That's the problem. This isn't even really what the video is about anyway. What the video is about is Nicki's response to this Megan bar, and it's not pretty. It's not flattering. Between lengthy IG rants, multiple tweets, and this, I don't know, weird online spaces crap thing clip we'll get to at some point too, she is in full meltdown mode. Seems Megan really struck a chord with this line. It's funny because after this Christopher Reeves bar and Pink Friday coming out, where, you know, there were some other moments that people were thinking might have been Meg shots, a lot of the Barbs were teasing Meg fans on Twitter, just being like, oh, it's rap. It's rap. You can't get mad at it. You can't get mad about it. If Megan really cares, she should just respond. She should get on record. She should say da-da-da-da-da. And yeah, that's like exactly what Megan did. But the result is apparently no longer, it's just rap. It's just rap. Now it's nothing but whining and crying and pissing and moaning and crocodile tears. And it's like, oh, you went after her family. Sadly, it's just a classic case of somebody who is, again, a cry bully and wants to dish it out, but can't take it when it's getting pushed back in their direction. So now she's dropping tweets like, Megan's Law for a free beat. You could hit Megan Raw. Yeah, because Megan the Stallion having sex, even if it is like crazy, wild, slutty sex, is way more shameful and way worse than marrying a guy who did what your husband did. Yeah, then we have all these retweets here because her Twitter feed just kind of turned into a hug box. And as crazy as these are, the IG live clips are actually even more unhinged. Not only is Nicki completely acting out in these clips, but she's like really trying to, like, you know, be in character and act like a Roman or whatever the hell.
Lied on her dead mama. Lied on her dead mama. Right after the funeral, she on her dead. I said, lied on her dead mama.
You're lying on your dead mama. You're lying on your dead mama.
You will not disrespect Papa Bear, you dirty fucking ran through bird ass, bum ass bitch. Broke bitch. You broke bitch. Tell them the truth, bitch.
Just remember, if you're lucky one day, hopefully your womb will bring forth a child. And you do not know what that child will have to go through.
Fragment foot bitch.
And she's acting so goofy while she says all of it, as if it's going to soften the blow of how horrible her behavior here is. But yeah, once again, to anybody who's outside of the Barbs cult, and look, I understand why the cult is there and why it exists. Nicki Minaj has been a fantastic, unique, and talented cultural force, highly influential for a very long time. As much as she has worked against it sometimes, this new and exciting wave of eccentric, off-the-wall, quirky and unique female rappers would not be where they are today without her. She has made loads and loads and loads of legendary songs and hits and projects and verses, but at the end of the day, she's still a person, and a very flawed person at that, and not a flawed person who has been displaying all that much self-awareness or a desire to change and grow and do better. And instead, what she's been doing with her platform and the fact that she does have this very passionate fan base is just kind of insulating herself, and I think giving her more reasons to not change course, to not do anything different, to continue being needlessly hostile and lashing out in a way that clearly is coming from a place of insecurity. Nobody overreacts to this degree over a single bar unless it really like hit in a deep place. In fact, I think this reaction from Nicki pretty much proves Megan smushed her on this one, because this whole freak out she's subjecting us all to is only driving more attention to the song. You're just literally putting money in this woman's pocket who you allegedly hate. You're doing her the biggest favor in the world, because honestly, a lot of these younger fans who are, into the Megan Thee Stallions, into the Cardi B's, into the Doja Cats and the Rico Nasties and the so on and so forths, I don't think they care as much about
Nicki,
because they didn't grow up with her music like that. They didn't grow up with her rise to fame in the early 2010s. And even if a lot of that classic material today still looms large, I'm sure many of those younger music listeners identify more with the rap artists that they feel like, they're kind of growing up with. And sadly, even if it is getting a warm reception from the most aggressive barbs out there on Twitter, I feel like sadly this reaction is just a part of a greater unraveling Nicki has been going through lately, and just further solidifies the downward slope that she is currently on. While yeah, it is true Pink Friday 2 did go #1 and did very good for Nicki numbers-wise, she's certainly not conducting herself like somebody who feels like their time isn't up. Like there isn't some actual competition out there that's slowly replacing her and taking her off the throne. Megan clearly really got in her head with this bar and was already doing so just by merely existing, which again doesn't exactly show her operating from a place of confidence. Hold the phones, stop the presses. We are adding to the video because this is an ongoing and developing story. At the time of shooting that earlier footage, Nicki had not yet announced she was coming out with a track. Yeah, a song titled Bigfoot, which also coincided with a threat about her leaking every receipt if Megan so much as breathes wrong, and that she did 5 other songs and she's been waiting for this moment. Saying that is a really good way of not looking desperate and like you've been quietly seething this entire time as Megan's career has been growing. This entire time, Nicki has been quietly gathering a dossier on Megan Thee Stallion. Weirdly, on Twitter, she also responded to Pop Bass saying that it wasn't a diss track when, in fact, now having heard the song, it is. And yeah, I spun the track several times over, and here are some thoughts. Honestly, I can't really see anybody spinning this track outside of those who are deep, deep, deep in the Nicki Minaj cult, because it's generally not a very catchy or well-produced song. It's no back-to-back, that's for damn sure. Which, like, regardless of how killer and hard-hitting the bars on that song are, and they are, it's just a really catchy and enjoyable song to listen to, just outside of the context of the Drake-Meek Mill beef, where as this very much is not. Even if your diss song does have some very explosive content in it, it's still a song, and I feel like at the very least it should appeal as one, at least a little. But no, it really doesn't, because Nicki, while she does come through with a few solid flows here and there, they're often delivered somewhat quietly, subtly. They're not very consistent throughout the length of the track, kind of changing up in an awkward way that makes it difficult for the song to build up momentum. Not to mention the fact that the instrumental is straight up garbage. Where the hell did you find this beat? Did you type in royalty-free piano beat on YouTube and this is the first thing that came up? No way would a rapper with some actual self-awareness here be caught dead on this instrumental. It's that fucking whack. You could have rapped over anything for this thing. You could have spit on some random classic shit and thrown that shit on SoundCloud. Everybody would have went nuts for that, but instead this? Yeah, great sounding bass. The beat is ass. Now, as far as the content of the song goes, I'm not going to say it's absolutely awful or the worst that I've heard. I mean, there are for sure some cool instances of wordplay throughout multiple points of the song. But here's the thing. It doesn't all hit quite as hard as maybe it could have if Nicki wasn't spending the past 24 hours basically spilling a lot of this material already between her Twitter feed and her IG lives, which kind of makes this track, at least for a good portion of it, feel like an IG live rant just on top of a trash ass instrumental. So there's that element to it. The other element is consider where this stuff is coming from, because some of the most focused and consistent bars on the entire song are focused mostly on who Megan has slept with, instances that have been public knowledge, maybe instances that are more alleged and behind the scenes. I mean, look, I will admit that G-Eazy video is hard to look at. The internet's collective stomach did churn at the sight of that video. But still, at the end of the day, that's two consenting adults doing two consenting adult things that they want to do, which even if it is a little bit cringe, ultimately is fine. That doesn't hit anywhere near as hard as the Megan's Law bar that obviously drove Nicki absolutely insane, that she also had to reference again in this song. Not to mention some of what Nicki is saying on this track kind of comes across like pure projection. Many people have been drawn to this one bar toward the end where she's talking about Megan possibly humping on a minor. I don't really know what the allegations are there, or if Nicki's even willing to admit, what this song is or who it's directed at, given her silly tweet about it not being a diss song. But like, humping on a minor, that's not a bar you would throw out there against your brother. Plus, isn't that also what Nicki Minaj did to a 13-year-old boy at a live concert, which everybody at the concert collectively booed? Some of this stuff just lacks impact when you consider the source. Because like I said toward the start of this video, Nicki lives in the glassest of houses. She has too much embarrassing shit out there about her and about her husband for her to be stepping up to the mic and calling out somebody else's moral character. And it seems like the most scathing thing she can throw at Megan's moral character is that she's lied about things in regards to her mom, and she's just slept with a lot of men consensually. Now, the last thing I need to talk about with this track is that, it's about 4 minutes long, but like the song portion itself is really just the first half. The second half is a wild, awkward rant where Nicki is going full Joker mode, talking about how we're playing fully going weirdo mode. But there is one specific bit where she seems to throw out this threat that if there isn't like an apology in 24 hours, we're going to get more. All the secrets, all the tea is going to be spilled. Over the past 24 hours, again, has Nicki Minaj displayed any self-control whatsoever? I mean, she literally spoiled more than half of her own song just spending too much time online, time that clearly should have been getting spent in the studio. I think she made it painfully clear that if she really truly did have some devastating dirt on Megan, then it would have come out like today in the afternoon or yesterday on the internet already. She wouldn't have been able to wait to put it in this song. Not only that, but out of sheer pettiness, I think Nicki probably would have leaked that shit to the internet before this whole beef thing started bubbling up to begin with. Whatever it is she knows or whatever proof she has, it has to be bigger and more hard-hitting than this, because again, she's saying it's going to escalate, and to be honest, what she delivered here is at a very low level of whatever the fuck it's supposed to be. I don't really see this song shaking anyone's, view of Megan in the same way that Pusha T was able to when he went at Drake. In fact, if it does have any impact on Megan's career, it's probably just going to bring her more attention. Weirdly, this kind of reminds me of something. It reminds me of the back and forths that Nicki and Lil Kim used to have when Nicki was on the come up, and Nicki was very unseriously mocking her in a way that was super entertaining and kind of brought a lot of people to her side. Meanwhile, Lil Kim in comparison was left looking bitter and irrelevant and jealous and insecure, and I feel like the tables have kind of turned on that here. Nicki is now the one giving off the insecure vibes. So, this was boring. This was not impressive. This was not all it was cracked up to be.